Okay, let's dive into this. Today we're talking about alanine metabolism. Now, this isn't just some random pathway you have to memorize, it's actually a fascinating story about communication, almost like a biochemical text message that gets sent between your muscles and your liver whenever your body is under stress. It's really, really clever.
So let me just ask you this. Imagine you're deep into a workout, or maybe you've been fasting for a while. Your muscles are absolutely screaming for energy. But at the exact same time, breaking down protein for that fuel is creating toxic byproducts. So how does your body solve this huge problem? Well, the answer is a single, totally elegant molecule.
To really appreciate just how cool the solution is, we first have to get a handle on the problem itself. So let's take a look at what's actually happening inside that muscle cell. It's facing a pretty serious two-front metabolic dilemma.
On one hand, you've got a full-blown energy crisis. Muscles just burn through glucose. But during a long workout or a fast, those local stores start to run really low. They desperately need a fresh supply. And on the other hand, you've got this toxin problem. See, to get that emergency fuel, the muscle starts breaking down its own proteins. But that process releases ammonia, and ammonia is a seriously potent neurotoxin. You absolutely cannot just let that stuff float around in your bloodstream.
And this right here is where our hero alanine steps onto the stage. It's this two-way messenger that just brilliantly solves both of these problems at the exact same time.
Now, what's really cool here is how we're defining alanine. I mean, yeah, technically it's a non-essential amino acid, but its function is what's really key. I want you to think of it like a specialized cargo container. It's designed to do two things. It packages up that toxic nitrogen waste, and at the very same time, it carries a carbon skeleton that can be used to make fresh energy. One molecule, two absolutely critical jobs. Okay, so we've got our messenger molecule. But how is it actually made? You know, right when the muscle needs it. The body uses this beautifully efficient chemical reaction called transamination. Let's break that down. It's kind of like a molecular swap meet. You've got glutamate over here, which has already collected that toxic nitrogen. And then you have pyruvate, which is basically a leftover from breaking down glucose. The enzyme alanine transaminase, or ALT, plays the role of the broker. It does this brilliant little switcheroo, transferring that toxic nitrogen group from glutamate right onto pyruvate. And what's the result? You get alanine, our safe nitrogen carrier. And glutamate, now that its job is done, gets recycled into something else and is ready for other tasks in the cell.
And this process perfectly illustrates how interconnected our metabolism is. This one reaction, kicked off by ALT, needs vitamin B6 to even work. It creates this perfect link between carbohydrate metabolism, where the pyruvate comes from, and amino acid metabolism, where the nitrogen comes from. And, because it's a reversible reaction, the body can actually run it in either direction depending on what it needs. It's an incredibly flexible system.
So, now that our messenger molecule has been created, it's time for it to go on its journey. This is really the heart of our story today, the glucose-alanine cycle. What we're going to do now is follow that single molecule of alanine as it leaves the muscle, travels all the way through the bloodstream, and arrives at its final destination, the liver, to deliver its really precious cargo. Okay, let's walk through this journey step by step. It all starts in the muscle. Toxic ammonia gets packaged onto pyruvate, and that creates our messenger, alanine. Then alanine hops into the bloodstream for its trip to the liver. Once it gets there, the exact reverse reaction happens. ALT splits alanine back into pyruvate and ammonia. Now, the liver's two specialized departments get to work. The pyruvate goes to the glucose kitchen to make fresh fuel. That's a process called gluconeogenesis. At the same time, the toxic ammonia is sent to the urea factory for disposal, where it's converted into harmless urea that you can just pee out. Finally, that brand new glucose is released back into the blood, completing the loop and heading right back to the muscle that needed it in the first place. It is a perfect cooperative system. Now, for all you future clinicians listening, understanding this cycle is not just academic, it's absolutely crucial, because when this elegant system breaks down, it has some really serious diagnostic implications. Hey, remember that enzyme alanine transaminase, or ALT? Well, here's the thing. It's mostly found inside liver cells, so when the liver gets damaged, its cells break open and they spill their contents, including ALT, out into the bloodstream. And this makes ALT an incredibly sensitive biomarker for liver health. So here's the crucial point. When you're on the wards and you see elevated serum ALT on a lab report, that's a direct signal of liver cell distress. It's a huge red flag. your mind should immediately jump to hepatocellular injury, damage from things like viral hepatitis, cirrhosis, or drug toxicity. High ALT means the central hub of this entire metabolic cycle is failing, and that can have some very serious consequences.
And the danger isn't just a damaged liver. Think about the other half of this cycle's job, making glucose. If this pathway is impaired, the liver's ability to produce that vital fuel during a fast is basically crippled. And this can lead to a dangerous drop in blood sugar, what we call hypoglycemia. It just highlights that a failure in this one cycle jeopardizes both waste removal and the body's fundamental energy supply.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground, so let's lock in the key concepts with a quick summary and a little quiz to make sure all of this really sticks.
Here's a super simple mnemonic to help you remember the two main functions of this whole cycle. Alanine always assists in ammonia removal and glucose return. Simple, right? But very effective.
Okay, first question, nice and easy. What's the key enzyme that actually makes our messenger molecule?
That's right, alanine transaminase, or ALT. The very same one we look for in blood tests.
Next up, when alanine arrives at the liver, what are the two essential end products that the liver creates from it?
Exactly. Fresh glucose to send back as fuel, and safe, excretable urea to get rid of all that toxic nitrogen.
And finally, the clinical tie-in. If you see high levels of ALT just floating around in the blood, which organ should you immediately be concerned about? The liver. You got it. It's the central processing plant for this whole cycle. And ALT is the telltale sign that something's gone wrong.
We've just explored the incredible story of one single amino acid, but there are 19 others, and each one has its own unique role and its own story. So the question I'm going to leave you with is this: what other elegant metabolic stories are just waiting inside the human body, ready to be uncovered?